to 80% of the people on the island have more than 20% of indigenous Taino DNA. And it's the same from Dominican Republic. Está más mezclado porque Santo Domingo was the first real port of immigration in the New World. So a lot of people used to come through La Isla de Hispaniola, because that's what it was back then. But if you guys ever did like a DNA test, you will find that you too are indigenous. And a lot of people, they don't know that.
Yeah, and it's mixed because I did my 23andMe test, and unfortunately, I only have less than 2% indigenous.
You see, but it's there.
Yeah, it's there, yeah.
So there's, back in the day, the United States used to have this one drop rule where if you had one drop of African blood or anything else, that's what you were considered. And it's funny how we so easily dismiss that little bit. I have way more than that. I have 20% actually. But if people are so easy to dismiss that DNA just because it's 2%, and it shouldn't be like that, because that's just part of your 2%, but your parents, because we only get 50% of the mix from each of them, might be even more, and you're still descended from those people. Just like you're descended from the Spanish that are in your DNA and the African that are in your DNA. That's still there. And probably Jewish too. A lot of people in the Dominican Republic have Jewish ancestry because they came over with the ships from Spain because they were being persecuted at the time during the Inquisition. So they would escape and come to Dominican Republic, back then Hispaniola. So yeah, and Canary Islands, a lot of people have DNA from the Aboriginal people of the Canary Islands because that was the last place that the Spanish colonized before hitting the Caribbean. So a lot of those people who were taken as indentured servants or whatever were put on the ships and also brought to the islands to serve the crown, you could say. So yeah.
One Red, I love how much knowledge you have on all this. I'm a person that likes to study history, and I try to share some historical points that I learned in college as well and throughout my adult life. And yeah, you're on point with everything, and I can tell that you're very knowledgeable on the subject. And yeah, I didn't mean to discount my 2%.
You better not discount that 2%. You better be proud of that 2%.
That 2% takes over the rest of the 98%. I'll tell you that.
Ya tú sabes.
That's what I want to identify with myself. But it shows how horrible it was, how big of a shift in humanity and its history it was when this place was colonized. But yeah, we're here now, and we're trying to preserve it, and I think Web3 and the blockchain is one way we can make sure it stays.
Oh my God, yes. Yes, it is. It fucking is, because, oh my God, I just cursed. My bad. I try not to curse too much in spaces.
It's all right.
Because
Barbería. It's okay.
I know, yo sé, pero que, I don't know, yo conocí a tanta gente in my life, que hay gente que, bendito, lo abusaron y le hicieron cosas, so when they hear too much profanity, se ponen, qué sé yo. So I try to keep it like, whatever.
Trigger words, triggers.
Yeah, them trigger words. Thank you. That's the word I was trying to remember.
Well, because of this celebratory event, right, at the barbershop of One Rad being the first Latina and female on the chair,
Yay!
And because of the Christmas spirit, Theo, can you prep what we have in store for everybody who's currently here?
Yes, I'm working on that right now. I'm working on that right now.
Thank you. So we have a surprise. Thanks, Gabe. We have a surprise for the early comers of the shop, and for some latecomers if they get it in time. But I did want to also highlight tonight's IRL events. Senny Capital's end of the year celebration and Knowledge's beautiful Christmas toy drive is tonight downtown in the LES. I know most of the people in this room will be there. Probably everybody except Herrera and Prensa, but you guys will be there in spirit. So, we appreciate that. We're excited for that. I pinned some details up top on the flyer where it is, if for my stragglers that come in late. And before we give One Rad the floor to kind of share who she is and what her story is, for the people that don't know her, she is a queen that we met in a space and had a beautiful conversation with. And we were like, yo, we F with her energy and her vibe. And because she's one of us, what she is doing in the Web3, in the NFT, how she's building her own legacy is remarkable. So we wanted to highlight it and we wanted to bring it to the shop.
I love it. Well, great news, everyone. The pin is already pinned to the jumbotron in the top. So what's going on here? Thanks to Ojeda City and him taking the initiative to mention this and actually tell us to do it. He's like, we got to do this as a community. Jay Harmony, what's going on here? And Theo. So I'm like, all right. He put my brain. I probably have some sort of also neurologic disability. I don't know.
That is not a neurologic disability. Let me stop you right there. Espérate. Eso es lo que tenemos, un cerebro completamente diferente a otra persona that's able to do wonderful things. But unfortunately, the world that we live in is not made for people like us. It's made for people with a different type of brain. But a neurological disability, I wouldn't go so far as to call it that.
Okay,
I call it a difference of a brain. No, porque it's like having a superpower, but then you have like a weakness. It's like kryptonite. That's always how I see it, because I'm able to do, and I'm sure you're able to do, and so many people are able to do things that you'd be thinking like, oh, I need to take a class for 10 years to learn how to do this. But for some reason, I picked it up real quick and I can do it better than someone that's been doing it for 20 years. Or you have like this gift of something that not anyone else has, although maybe you thought that everyone else was like you, but you're special. But then you have like problems getting to work on time, which was one of my biggest problems. I work for myself now. But like, yeah, that's one of the stigmas I'm trying to get people to let go of, because the thing is that there's so many of us that do not know, because they've been masking since they were children, that it'll scare people away from finding out. And let me tell you, when you really understand your brain, your life changes, because you're able to understand why the world treated me like this, or why I do this certain thing. It's pretty awesome. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll stop talking now. Yo tengo un beat, and I'm so sorry.
You were right.
Sigue,
Thank
que
you for
yo estaba
correcting
enfocado
me.
aquí escuchándote.
No, gracias por corregirme. You're right. So I'm gonna now rephrase it to neurological gift.
There you go. Oh, I like that. I might steal that, actually.
You can steal it.
I'll borrow it.
Go right ahead. But yeah, thank you for saying that. I just meant to say that, us, most of us that come from urban cities, we don't get the attention, or maybe early on, that we should to diagnose these things.
That's
so
right.
I was probably one of those. My mom raised me by herself. She did the best she could, but she definitely didn't have the resources for anything like that. So, we came out okay at the other end, but there might be something in there that has never been diagnosed. But I think I turned out okay. I worked with it, and I'm almost 40, so it is what it is.
Let me tell you that I didn't get any of my diagnosis until after 30, because just like you, my mother was a single mother, and she was working in a factory all the time. I was a latchkey kid. I spent a lot of time at the public library. That's why I'm so mad about what's happening in New York with the funding. And I was really, and I still am, but I was very, very, I was gifted. So I never had a problem with my academia, except for math, because I have a learning disability called dyscalculia. And I was still so, I hate to use the word smart, but I was still intelligent enough where my grade was still good enough. But math was always the hardest because of that. And all of these things that I know now about myself were things that none of my teachers caught. And just so you guys know, a good way to catch a learning disability in a child is when they do well in every class except for like one. That's probably where the disability is. With me, I had like 100s in every class except for math, where it was like 75 or 70. Like it was like average. So that's how I was. Oh, and I'm a girl. So with girls, it's like we don't get that attention at all unless we're like super disruptive. And something else that I was I was good in class when my mother's Dominican, so yo no me portaba mal porque el miedo que yo le tenía a mami y todavía le tengo, yo es una vieja ya, era increíble. So that's them conditioning you and programming you and teaching you to mask, because although I was quiet and sitting in class, inside my head, that shit was like a fucking party in there, and I would get distracted. I look out the window, and then I would start talking sometimes in class, like over talk, but not in a disruptive way. So that's how a lot of kids, especially like in New York City, that doesn't get picked up on. And with our parents, bendito, they were always, at least, you know, that that's what I'm saying. I understand. They were always so busy. Y ellos tenían los problemas de ellos encima de eso. It was just like they were trying to survive at that time.
No, right. And sorry to cut you off. Not only their problems, but los problemas los familiares.
Oh my God, yes. Que quieren venir para acá también, because then you're also like, you're your own Ellis Island when you get an apartment here back in the day.
My mom was one of 10 children, and she was the first one to go to the city, Santiago, from Platanal. And then the first one to immigrate legally because she went through a tough marriage, and her husband had a green card, and she got it through that point, and she's made it that way. And then she brought every one of her siblings and her mother.
She was Ellis Island.
Yeah. I commend my mom because she did that as an immigrant. She was an early entrepreneur that had her own salon here, and through that she was able to bring everyone. And my extended family, you know, most of them are here because of that grain of salt that she planted, that seed that she planted early on.
The biggest thing is that when you're neurodiverse, I hate to like break it to everyone, but you don't catch that. You can't develop that from a vaccine or from being exposed to lead or some crazy shit like that. That shit is hereditary. It's hereditary. And when we get a little older, at least some of us who have gotten our diagnosis, and we look back at like our family members and our parents and stuff, we're like, yo, pero mami hace eso también. O mi tío que gaguea, because stuttering is like a sign too. Like I had uncles that stutter. I had uncles that used to tenían insomnia, que no podían dormir, but that's because sometimes the neurodiverse brain has like a different circadian rhythm. So the reason we're staying up at night is because that's the time we're supposed to be up. But the world is made for 9 to 5. So that's something, just something else that fucks up our whole, that messes up our whole like existence. But
I'm with you on, Rad.
I mean, yeah, that's when you get the best.
People, they didn't prescribe to all these rules. No,
they didn't.
Take care of nature. They will get up when the sun rose. They will, you know, hunt and live happy. And you know what? They didn't even practice polygamy. They would practice polygamy, right? So no one owned anything. So I could have my house and my family, but the other tribe member could stay in my house and use my bow.
And the Taínos were the tíos, the uncles, like the Taínos were a matriarchal. Sorry, the Taínos were a matriarchal society. So the people that were the most important were the female members of the tribe. So that's why they were male and female caciques. But the power of like the herencia del chiefdom came from the female side. And when you had a kid, el que lo criaba era el tío, el hermano de la mamá. And let me tell you something, my ADHD caused me right now to go down a hole, and I can't remember why I started talking about that. And that's another sign of ADHD.
I love it, because you definitely gave me some good information. Now I know that I did a good job by reserving this ENS domain, El Tío, because there are so many...
Melo ahí. That's yes.
If you want your indigenous guidance, come to El Tío.
And that's why we call each other primos all the time. A lot of the vernacular that we use as Dominicans in Spanish actually comes from the way that the Taínos used to talk to each other and their words. And you have to unfortunately, you have to really sit down and study and go through all the words and stuff. But the more you study, the more you understand that the Spanish that you're speaking, a lot of it is borrowed words, so, and African words too, lots of African words.
Oh yeah, that makes sense because also when the Spanish came and colonized, I think most of the immigrants that lived in Santiago, right, in that area, in El Cibao,
Mm-hmm.
they came from a specific city in Spain that they spoke like con la I. So there's a lot of
Yes.
reason why like you have a certain accent if you come from that side because that's hereditary as well. It comes
So they also
from
came from the Canary Islands. The people
yes.
in Santiago that settled there were from Portugal, the Canary Islands, and Spain. And that's why sometimes if people do their DNA, they'll see that it says Iberian. And although you see Spain there, which is huge, Portugal is right next to it and it's mad tiny. And that's part of the Iberian Peninsula as well. So you might just be more Portuguese than you are
Yeah.
Spanish and not know it.
In my case, I have like 11% Portuguese and like 10% Spanish.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and then some African as well, and then like I know 2% stood out because that's what I was looking for. The indigenous, and it was like less than 2 or 3%, but it was there, like you said, it was there.
It's there, and it's so funny because going to school here in New York, whenever you had to take a test for the city, and back then they used to give you a test for everything, and they would make you fill out your race, and I never knew what to put in there. I would want to put Dominican. That's what I would want to put. I was like, why isn't that there? Why they don't have like a thing that says Dominican? Because that's how I identified as Dominican, because I had already gone to school and I had been back and forth. But then as I got older, I noticed that they did start adding like other things. I think they added Puerto Rican at one point. And I always wanted to put Native American, but it never felt right because I knew that I wasn't Native American to the mainland of North America. And I definitely wasn't Alaskan or Inuit. But I knew that when I looked in the mirror, I looked like an India, like yo parezco una India. So much so that, unfortunately, when I used to go out and go to places where there's mostly white people, they would be like, oh, Pocahontas. Or if I was in school, I would play an Indian in a play or something. Porque yo parezco India, porque soy India. And a lot of us...
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. And I just think a lot of us look in the mirror and it's like we were conditioned to not see what's there. I just think it's a very interesting thing.
Yeah, I think that question is the question that, at least speaking for me as well, and for my other fellow Dominicans, because I know a lot of Dominicans felt the same way. And not just Dominicans, a lot of Spanish people too just felt like, where do I belong? Like none of those, I don't fit in any of those. And then the closest one is the Native American, and we're kind of like, all right,
yes,
like if I have to, but like
And also black. Black is another one because when you're black and you're like, let's say Dominican or Puerto Rican, and you're in school here, it won't say black, it will say African American, and you'll look at it and you'll be like, I'm not African American. I'm Dominican or I'm Puerto Rican. I'm black, but I'm not African American. So, this country lives to put you in a category and a box anyway. And it's also it lives for that. And it also, it's a lot about us that were born here in the United States. There's already a sense of where do I belong as soon as you go back to your parents' country. And they remind you that you're not really Dominican. You a gringa, you're actually American. But then you come back here and they can't stop asking you where you're from, even though you told them New York City. Because there's no fucking way you're American, because you're not white. So there's a sense of not belonging for first generations, Latinos, and even second or third generation, because it's like you're not accepted anywhere. So I think actually that journey to finding, our indigenous roots or African roots, I think it's for a lot of us, it did start with not feeling accepted, neither in the place where you were born, nor the place where you supposedly come from. So
wow, that is so beautiful, and let me just say that the struggle of my life as a first generation Dominican American that identified, yeah, as Dominican and American, but really didn't understand the country that I was born in, right? Until I
Mm-hmm.
hit a certain age. And to realize that, just what you just said, that, you just don't feel that you belong. So you kind of lean back towards your indigenous roots because that feels more right. And I'm in a point in my life. Well, actually, I've been living like this for a while. Well, I've been in protest of the system, right? Where I used to work, for example, for 10 years, it was a
Oh, protest
very
all the systems, by the way. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I do it in a way, but I have a family, so I have to support them. But I do it in my own way. So where I worked for 10 years, it was like a very shirt and tie, clean cut. I was one of those hipsters that I had my beard every day. There was some days I will wake up upset with the system, and I will wear my Dominican hat, and I would just go to
Oh
work
my God.
in my street clothes, and nobody would say anything to me
That's the
because the way I
silent
spoke was, yeah.
protest. I love it because
So,
I would do the same thing.
so if you see me with a beard, when I when I started using a beard, that's when I started to realize that I didn't want to live by society standards and like I gotta shave and I gotta wear this to
Mm-hmm.
fit in. No, I'm a professional. I could do my job no matter how I look,
That's
and that
right.
was important to me. So I've stayed true in that sense. But oh my gosh, this has been such a great conversation so far. Let me just quickly reset to guide everyone to the top. We have that POAP. I created a POAP for anyone that's here now. If you follow that link to the top, you can get your free POAP, and it stands for Proof of Attendance Protocol, and it's simply a free NFT that you'll be able to use as a memento, as a badge that you were here, and then in the future we can also use it to maybe airdrop some NFTs to the people that came, and we're gonna create one every week. I plan to create one for every La Silla episode that we have, and then we'll spontaneously create one for events that we do IRL, like we're doing
Theo,
right now.
I have a question. Is that
Dime.
link only for one? Because I'm getting messages on the side that they're having issues with it,
Okay.
saying it was
So what
already
I'm gonna
claimed.
do, yeah, because
I haven't claimed anything.
no, what I'm gonna do is this. I'm gonna add the QR code because what happens is every time you scan the QR code, they generate a new link. So the link that I provided was the one that they gave me. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pin the QR code. You guys are gonna have to figure out how to scan it with another device, or see it on your computer and then scan it until I figure out how, and we can make one link just work for more than one person. Sorry about that. Let me work on getting that figured out.
Or we can also, if you scan it, maybe pin the on the bottom right. You guys can pin the link in the bubble in the chat, and that way we know who did it, who didn't do it, and then we can kind of generate some more. I do want to go before we kind of reset a little to Prensa and then Hereda, because I know that you guys had your hands up. So Prensa, dale para allá.
Gracias, buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
A los que llegaron nuevos. Una pregunta latina.
Dime.
¿Cómo influenció toda esa historia y el conocimiento que tú tienes para crear el arte que tú creas? Dime, ¿cómo eso?
¿Cómo lo uso para inspirarme a crear el arte?
Bueno, básicamente sí, sería una buena pregunta también.
Bueno, yo vivo en las historias casi el día entero porque para mí aprender sobre el pasado es un interés especial y es algo, cuando uno es autista, hay algo que se llama interés especial, o sea, se vuelve como una obsesión y tú puedes durar 5 horas haciendo tal cosa y cuando tú conoces a alguien, tú comienzas a hablar de eso. Entonces, para mí, la historia y conocer mis raíces desde chiquita siempre fue un interés demasiado grande. Y cuando yo comencé a pintar profesionalmente, a vender mi arte, era importante, era necesario poner eso en lo que yo creara, aunque fuera nada más un símbolo taíno o algún decir de un poeta dominicano o un revolucionario boricua, algo de eso tenía que existir en lo que yo creaba, porque el mundo sabe silenciar personas que no son usual a lo normal. Y yo no podía dejar que otras personas que fueran como yo, que no han tenido la oportunidad o el valor de hacer su pasión o de hablar sobre algo, que se le quite ese miedo. Por eso que yo no comencé, siempre he incluido parte de la cultura en todo lo que yo creo. ¿Está bien o sigo?
No, para darle un poco de continuidad, ahí mismo.
Dame.
También, dame tu inspiración sexual. Dámelo con eso. Okay. Dame lo que tú sientes.
Contra prensa, por eso que yo tengo problemas contigo, mi hermano, porque ¿qué es esa pregunta? Dime.
Esa pregunta, ella
no,
sabe
no,
porque yo le pregunto.
No, ¡pau! Espérate. ¡Pau! Ya, tú ves porque qué para eso que ese botón ahí. No.
Bueno, déjame. I'm gonna answer in my way. Primeramente, para la próxima, a una mujer artista, a cualquier persona que está hablando de su arte, si el arte que están creando no es específicamente sexual o sensual, no es necesario hacer esa pregunta. Ahora, cuando yo creo mi arte, casi nunca estoy pensando en eso, porque lo que sí quiero crear son piezas de arte que muevan la mente para algo más profundo que solo deseo de la carne. O sea, yo quiero que la gente piense de dónde yo vengo, quién soy yo, cómo yo puedo cambiar el mundo. Me hace falta alguien que yo quiero mucho, cómo están ellos. Porque a veces que yo hago arte sobre prevención del suicidio, porque yo he conocido gente que se han quitado la vida, y a veces yo hago calcomanía con, bueno, ahora tengo que cambiarla porque cambiaron el número, pero a veces yo hago calcomanía con el número de la línea de suicidio para que la gente, si esté en la calle un día pensando en eso, le pasen a la calcomanía y lo vean y dicen, déjame llamar y no hacer una tragedia, tú sabes. Eso es lo que yo hago. Pero para el futuro, cuando ustedes tengan otra artista que no sea tan elocuente como yo y pueda que te mande al diablo, a veces hay artistas que hacen que tú le mandes una lista de preguntas porque ellos saben que hay gente que le van a hacer preguntas que son, como tú sabes, amazing. So, para no usar otra palabra. So, no me ofendí porque yo estoy en una edad que ya yo no me ofendo de nada. Y también es una pregunta que hay muchos artistas que sí le gustaría que le preguntaran porque ellos sí crean arte con eso en mente.
No, y déjame entrar, José, yo me adelanté un poco, yo estoy seguro que la pregunta tuya tenía que ver más con el lado del arte y tal vez el tipo de arte que ella crea, y yo estoy seguro que fue por esa línea que tú le hiciste, y te invité a que estuviera otra vez, era más chelcha, pero contra, yo no me esperaba esa, loco, me diste con una curva ahí. Dime,
sí, esa fue surprising.
Herrera, ¿tienes una pregunta?
Saludos, mi gente. Tío, nada más quiero decir
Saludo.
que esto, la barbería aquí, es the barbershop. You hear everything at the barbershop. Y tengo una pregunta dos preguntas para One Rat Latina.
Dígame, Herrera.
La primera sería el nombre tuyo de One Rat Latina, a qué si te da alguna historia y si has hecho algún mural allá en la República Dominicana. Gracias.
Ok.
Excelente pregunta. Dos preguntas.
Excelente, sí, me gusta mucho esa pregunta. Bueno, cuando yo escogí el nombre de One Rat Latina fue cuando Instagram fue hecho, se pudo comenzar a descargar en los teléfonos de Android, porque cuando Instagram comenzó solo era para iPhone y yo no tenía un iPhone. Y yo yo estaba buscando la forma de poder enseñarle al mundo mi arte y comencé con fotografía porque era más fácil. Y escogí ese nombre porque, no sé, primeramente yo siempre he pensado diferente a otras personas, o siempre he sido media radical. Y me gustó cómo sonaba. El cerebro mío sabe jugar con la palabra. Una cosa que me gusta también, jugar con la palabra, como ponerla en diferentes lugares. Suena tan extraño cuando se lo estoy explicando a alguien, pero en inglés se puede decir como wordplay también. So, me gustó cómo sonaba, era largo, no sé por qué quería un nombre largo, será porque el nombre mío de verdad es larguísimo también. Y escogí ese. No, todavía no he hecho un mural en Santo Domingo, en República Dominicana. Tengo murales aquí en Nueva York, tengo uno ahora mismo que estaba trabajando después de la restauración que estoy haciendo, porque estoy restaurando un muro en Harlem, en Taino Towers. También tengo dos murales. Oh, thank you. También tengo dos murales en Harlem también. Y hay uno que no lo he terminado porque lo tienen en una localidad donde están las city bike. Y necesito que me remuevan esa bicicleta para yo poder trabajar. So, voy y vengo. Ayer estaba trabajando con ella también. Pero no, Santo Domingo todavía no. Algún día, si Dios quiere.
Increíble.
Okay.
Mr. Adam, vamos a decir, movemos esa bicicleta, ¿de qué pasa?
Yo, you know what's crazy? La señora me tiró en estos días porque yo comencé a hacer mural en octubre del año pasado. La señora me tiró y me dice, oh, me dieron la llave para ya poder laquear toda la bicicleta. Pero cuando yo le dije, ok, pues dame un día, nunca me tiró para atrás. Yo fui ayer, porque no está muy lejos del mural que estoy restaurando, y llevé un chin de pintura. Yo uso aerosol a veces. En esa pared usé aerosol, pero usé pintura con una brocha y comencé a darle ahí a terminarla porque ese mural es tan grande, Dios mío. A mí hasta se me olvidó el tamaño de esa pared, de larga. Y el nombre mío en la firma no se ve bien, como la gente lo ve todos los días y tal vez le cogen fotos. Y yo nunca lo sé porque no lo firmé bien. So, estoy loca para terminar ese mural ya. De verdad. No sé por qué comencé a hablar de eso, pero...
One Red, nosotros vamos a estar allá en Manhattan hoy. Si tú quieres, tú nos mandas la dirección. Yo, gringo, Gabe, tío, resolvemos. So,
No hay
You know
tiempo para
what?
poder hacer una foto con el mural. El que no se la tire no es parte de la orden.
El día 17,
Mírenme
el
la dirección donde vive
sábado...
la vieja.
Oh, my God.
Que yo
Yo
agarre y le
quisiera...
quito la llave, entonces hacemos lo que tenemos que hacer.
Oh, my God, that's so funny. Yo estoy loca que esa mujer agarre y quite esa bicicleta. Pero el sábado ellos van a, si no llueve, porque yo creo que, yo no sé cómo va a estar este fin de semana, pero la gente que son encargada de eso es Uptown Grand Central. Ese es el community board or something. Y ellos tienen un pop-up que van a poner un ice skating ring y lo van a poner enfrente del mural. Eso en la 124 con Park Avenue, donde está la estación de Metro North.
I know the area. I worked that neighborhood for 10 years. Yeah, I know what mural it is. They used to be closed off before, and they kind of opened it up for little events under the Metro North station.
Yeah, it's like they do like things there. I know a girl, like, I think she sells like scarves or something, but they do like pop-ups and stuff. So I was there yesterday, and then I saw it on Instagram that they're doing that, and I was like, oh shit, that's right in front of my mural. I probably should definitely finish this, but since today I wanted to do this comfortably, like I really was like, okay, if I leave the house at 7 and I get to the restoration, I can work like 3 or 4 hours and then get on the phone and then work. And it's impossible because not only está bien frío, está ventoso, y yo me tengo que encaramar en una escalera bien, bien, bien alta. Y el clima tiene que estar perfecto para eso porque es bien peligroso. So, mejor me quedo en mi casa hablando sin tener que preocuparme que está muy frío o que no se oye bien por la señal. You know, that's the best thing. Yo lo sigo diciendo, ser independiente de los constraints de ser empleado de alguien. Eso es para mí. Yo duré mi vida entera trabajando para otra persona. You know, I'm from New York y éramos pobres.